Okay, we're going to be looking at 3.1, how the pros do it. You can go ahead and open up 3.1 and a separate tab. To do that, it's pretty easy to do. You're going to right click on Unit 3. You're going to open in Browser tab, and then you're going to click on 3.1, how the pros do it. So when you click on 3.1, how the pros do it, you're going to end up with these instructions here. And these instructions will walk you through all of the steps to do 3.1. So let's go ahead and get on into it. So first of all, I need a new Part Studio. And I'm going to right click on Part Studio 1. I'm going to rename Part Studio 1, and it says rename it Bricks. Once it's renamed Bricks, I can go on that's steps 1 and 2. And go on to step number 3, or I'm sorry, step 2, part 1. We're going to go find the tab that says variables. Right now I have my screen, it's not full screen, so I have to look for it. It's probably under one of these drop down tabs. More than likely it's under the tab that has the plane. So go to plane, and where it says variable, I click on variable. On the variables, it says type the new name of the variable will be called rows. I need to make sure that it's on number, and I'm going to press 2. Once I have 2 variable row, number, and 2, I'm going to hold Shift, and I'm going to go ahead and click Enter twice. Enter, Enter. And what that's going to do, it's going to set my first variable and allow me to go on to the second variable. So the second variable is going to be called columns, or COLs for short. The number, it's going to be on number, and it's going to be 4. Once I have that set, I'm going to go ahead and click the check mark to finish. Once I finish those two, I'm going to move on to step 3. I need to have another variable set, and this time I'm going to go ahead back to variables. Since variables is already there, I can just click on variables, and I'm going to set to length, and I'm going to call this variable height, and it's going to be 10 millimeters. And I can go ahead and click the check mark. Now, step 4. Step 4 says we're going to start a sketch on the top plane. It's important to select top plane so that everything is set up the same way as the instructions. Normally, it's up to you what plane you'd like to select. So I'm going to do a new sketch on the top plane. I'm going to go ahead and hit in so that I can turn my sketch so that I'm normal or looking straight at the sketch plane. I want a center port circle, or I can click, or center port rectangle, or I can click R. Once I click R, I'm going to go ahead and draw my center point rectangle, and then I'm going to click on it one time. Now, you notice down at the bottom, it has selected the length of my rectangle. I'm going to do 8 times the variable called columns. So I'm going to 8 times number, and then notice columns pops up. I'm going to click columns. Now, I want to do this because doing this as a variable, if I change the variable, make the columns 4 or 8 or 12, it will automatically do all the calculations for me. All right, and once I have that, I'm going to hit enter and go to the next one. I'm going to do 8 times, 8 times, this time number sign, and I'm going to do rows, and then hit enter. Once I have those set, I can go ahead into the extrude, and I'm going to extrude this, and this time it's going to say extrude, and this time it's set to blind, but I'm going to extrude button, and for the depth, I'm going to put times, or the number sign, and this time I'm going to do height, just my height, one height. Click the check mark. I'm going to click the letter P to turn off all the planes, and then I'm going to go ahead and look at this. You notice I have a nice cubic shape starting to look like a Lego. Moving on to step 6. Step 6, I'm going to use the shell tool. And for the shell tool, I'm going to flip my brick over. I'm going to look at the bottom of the brick. I'm going to go ahead to shell. I'm going to click on the bottom, and I'm going to change the shell thickness to 1.5 millimeters. 5 millimeters. I'm going to go ahead and click the check mark. All right. Now, for step number 7, I need to use this edge of this bottom part to create a sketch on the top plane. So I'm going to create a sketch on the top plane. I'm going to click on the Use button, which looks here. and the construction line, because I want this to be set as construction lines. And we're going to click on this bottom surface. And you'll notice now there is a dotted or dashed line on the top of my part that I can use to define some geometries. Once I have those done, I'm going to create a center point rectangle. I'm going to make sure that my construction line's turned off. Go ahead and click on circle, center point circle. I'm going to go ahead and draw my circle. I'm going to give it a diameter of 5 millimeters. And now I'm going to use my tangent tool. The tangent tool makes it so that the edge of the circle is flush with the edge of this construction rectangle. So I'm going to go ahead and click on tangent. If it's not already selected for you, you need to click on the drop down arrow where next to the dimensioning tool, go to tangent or click the letter T and click on the circle and the line. And then this circle and this line. And now it's fixed to that edge. Once I have them tangent, I can go ahead and click the check mark. Step number 9. Step number 9, I'm going to create mate connectors. Now these mate connectors are going to be used when I do my assembly. They're actually not used for this part. In order to do my mate connector, I'm going to go ahead and click the mate connector tool. And the mate connector tool is, you might have to search for it. I'll give you a moment to see if you can figure out where it is. Well, if you couldn't figure it out, the mate connector tool is located, I'm going to have to look for it as well, right here. Mate connector. So I'm going to go ahead and click the mate connector tool. I'm going to place it to place it in the center of the circle. The last step, I'm going to go ahead and click the center, and then click move. And here I'm going to move my Z to 1.8 millimeters. So it's going to move it down 1.8 millimeters. 1.8 millimeters. So now, instead of it being on the top surface, that mate connector is actually going to be on the bottom surface. There's an error here. Let me go ahead and fix that. So I need to type here into my variable. So I'm going to do 1.8 minus height. And then go ahead and click the check mark. Oh, the millimeters shouldn't be written there. I get rid of the millimeters. Minus 1.8 millimeters needs to be back here. 1.8 millimeters minus the height, and I click the check mark, and you'll notice that the mate connector is now set. It's now set at a position where the top of if I put another brick in, it will match up with that part. Okay. Now let's go ahead and move on to step 8. We're going to extrude this circle. We're going to extrude this circle so that it is 1.8 millimeters in height. So we're going to go here, extrude it, 1.8 millimeters, 8 millimeters. And I'm going to add a fillet to this of 0.25 millimeters. So we're going to go ahead and click the check mark and add a fillet here. Sorry, a fillet here of 0.25 millimeters. And click the check mark. Now, this is the part that's kind of cool. We're going to go ahead and use a linear pattern tool. And we're on step 12. We're going to click the linear pattern tool. Looks like the linear pattern tool right here. And it says we're going to change the top pull down menu from part pattern to feature pattern. So here's part pattern, and we're going to go to a feature pattern. Now that it's blue, the feature pattern is selected. I'm going to go ahead and select the mate connector, the extrude, and the fillet because I want all of those to be feature pattern. And now I'm going to click on the direction, and I want to click on the long edge of my part. And let's just say for a moment that you notice that it was actually off of the part. So here you see that it's off of the part. I can change the direction by clicking on this arrow button. Now that it's on the part, I'm good to go. Okay. I want the distance to be 8 millimeters. 8 millimeters. And the instances, this time I'm going to use my variable again. And I'm going to do is the number columns. And then I'm going to click on second direction. It's going to be 8 millimeters again. This time it's going to be the number of rows. Okay, so we have the number of columns, number of rows, enter again. This time I have to have a direction. This direction is going to be here. And now it is populated my part. Go ahead and click the check mark. And you notice now I have all of the little nubs for my Lego parts. I'm going to go ahead and hide this mate connector. Okay, I'm hiding it. It gets a little bit jumbled. All right. So now we're on to step number 13. We're going to go ahead and flip our brick over, and we're going to click on in so that it's normal. I'm going to do a sketch on this surface. I'm going to create a center point circle, making sure that I don't want to be constrained to the middle. So I'm just going to draw one in random circle somewhere in space there, and do another one somewhere in space there. Once I have this done, I'm going to go ahead and dimension my two circles. The outer circle's diameter is going to be 6.314. It's going to be 6.314. The inner circle is going to be 0.75. I'm sorry, the inner circle is going to be 0.75 from the outer circle. So let's go ahead and exit out of here. Exit out of here, delete this. Let me redraw my inner circle. My inner circle is going to be 0.75 from the outer circle. It's got to be 0.75 from the outer circle. And then this is going to be 0.65 from the edge, from each edge. I'm sorry, 6.5 from the edge. So 6.5 from that edge, and then 6.5 millimeters. Go ahead and delete that, or let's go ahead and, we're all jacked up right now. Escape button is not working right now. Of course it wouldn't. So let me go ahead and get out of this function and start deleting some of these random dimensions that popped up. So now I need to go from the center of this circle. We have a random circle here. So I'm going to go from the center of this circle to this edge. It needs to be 6.5. 6.5. Okay, now it's fully constrained. It's all black. It's good to go. Once I have those done, I'm going to go ahead and extrude this. So I'm going to finish the sketch, or you can go straight to extrude. I'm going to extrude this, and instead of typing it, I'm going to do something called up to face. So up to face, which means it's going to extrude it up to a height with a plane that's parallel to the plane that I'm extruding. So I want to extrude it up into this face, and you'll notice it'll draw it up to that face, and go ahead and click the check mark. So now I'm going to use the linear pattern tool again. Linear pattern. I want to feature pattern. What do I want to feature pattern? I want to feature pattern this extrusion. The direction that I want to feature pattern it is going to be along that line. The distance is going to be 8 millimeters. And the instant count is going to be my columns. Minus 1. And I'm going to go ahead and click the check mark. Okay. Once this is all done, I can go ahead and right click on my part. I'm going to assign a material to my part. I'm going to click on here and type ABS. ABS. I want it to be ABS. And then I'll go ahead and check the density of the density is set, the part is set. I can highlight it, and I can click on the mask properties to show the mask properties. I'm going to save that for you to do because that's how I'm going to check your work. Then you have your first Lego brick made.